Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Organizational Excellence's webcast for Pregnancy and New Mom Compliance Must-Knows for Supervisors with Jacqueline Wagner. Now, for almost 20 years, Jacqueline M. Wagner, Esquire, has enjoyed the privilege of training hundreds of employers and supervisors in an assortment of industries concerning all aspects of employment law, including sexual harassment prevention, cultural competency, sensitivity training, I-9 procedures, and no-match letter protocols, alternative work schedules, reasonable accommodations, and a wide array of MCLE topics. Currently, Ms. Wagner is the Principal Sexual Harassment Prevention, Evolved Leadership, Reasonable Accommodations, Pregnancy Issues, Sensitivity Training, and Continuing Education Trainer on behalf of the Office of General Counsel for the Los Angeles Unified School District, where she is an Assistant General Counsel. And here's Jacqueline Wagner.
Good morning. Welcome to Pregnancy and New Mom Compliance Must-Knows for Supervisors. California is at the forefront in developing laws which protect the status of pregnant women. We have at least 4 separate pieces of legislation unique to California which address the leave and accommodation needs of pregnant and new mothers. You need to be familiar with each of them, and this class will help you do that. Specific to California, those laws are known as the California Employment and Housing Act, or FEHA, California Pregnancy Discrimination Leave Law, Pregnancy Disability Leave Law, the California Family Rights Act, or the CFRA, and the California Labor Code. Meet Samantha, a woman in your workplace whom you supervise. A little later, you're going to receive the great news that Samantha is pregnant. I am going to walk you through each stage of Samantha's pregnancy and return to work and guide you through the do's and don'ts of handling various issues that may or will come up during her pregnancy. Now, let's say Samantha has not yet announced her pregnancy to you. But lately, she's been looking a little tired, and she's been gaining weight. And is that a baby bump? You're wondering whether maybe you should just ask Samantha if she's pregnant. Well, we don't recommend you take that approach. The FEHA prohibits discrimination, harassment, and retaliation for exercising rights afforded under the Act. In addition, Samantha's employer will be held liable for discriminatory conduct against not only pregnant employees, but also for discriminatory conduct against women Samantha's employer perceives to be pregnant, even if she's not. This concept is similar to the perceived disability regulations under the Americans with Disabilities Act and the CFRA. Good job. You held back from asking Samantha whether she was pregnant. But now she's come to let you know that she is, in fact, pregnant. All of a sudden, you have one of those need-a moments like in the Twix commercials. What do you say to Samantha? You may be genuinely happy for Samantha. Or you may be upset because she's working on a big project and now you're wondering whether it's going to get completed. Or you wonder whether she's going to be asking for a bunch of time off. You may personally see this mistake as you may personally see this pregnancy as a mistake for Samantha given her age, her point in her career, her marital status, or that you think she already has too many kids. However, each announcement of pregnancy should be treated as a joyous occasion. Congratulations are always in order. Now that you're affirmatively aware that Samantha is pregnant and you're not just guessing, you'll want to make sure to avoid asking questions which may be perceived by Samantha as harassing, such as, have you been tested for any abnormalities? Who is the father? How old are you? Are you married? Do you want this baby? Were you trying to get pregnant, or is this an oops baby? You'll want to avoid making inappropriate comments about the pregnancy, such as referring to Samantha as knocked up, commenting about Samantha's appearance, making worrisome comments about the health of the baby, blaming Samantha's pregnancy or hormones for any of her conduct, comments, or attitude. You'll also want to refrain from touching Samantha's growing belly, even if she invites it. Doing so may be viewed a little later as awkward in the workplace, and it could prove to be harassing conduct. It may be tempting to try to protect Samantha from doing certain jobs while she's pregnant. For example, what if Samantha's jobs include heavy lifting? What if she gets hurt? Couldn't you just make some changes to her job until she had the baby? Some women fly through their pregnancies without any complications, and they don't require any adjustments to their job functions at all. Transferring Samantha to another position over her objection may be considered harassing or discriminating unless the transfer is based on her legitimate operational needs unrelated to Samantha's pregnancy or perceived pregnancy. Nor can you take away job functions or force her to take a leave of absence before she's ready. But what if Samantha is disabled by her pregnancy and asks for a change based on her pregnancy disability, such that she needs and requests an adjustment to her job functions or an accommodation? California's pregnancy disability regulations explicitly require employers to engage with the woman in the interactive process to determine whether a reasonable accommodation can be made. Samantha's employer is required to determine if her accommodation request is reasonable on a case-by-case basis. An accommodation may include modifying work practices or policies, modifying work duties, modifying work schedules, permitting more frequent breaks, providing furniture, or providing break time. When determining whether a requested accommodation is reasonable, Samantha's employer must look at the totality of the circumstances and consider various factors, including, but not limited to, the employee's medical needs, the duration of the needed accommodation, and the employer's legally permissible past and current practices. What if Samantha's pregnancy disability is a little more serious and she needs more than just modifying work duties? Let's say she needs to take time off because of her pregnancy-related disability. The FEHA requires employers who employ 5 or more employees, like the district, to provide employees who are disabled by their pregnancy a reasonable period of leave not to exceed 4 months. Samantha is entitled to leave for each pregnancy she has, not just per year. The FEHA requires Samantha's employer to give her time off from work if she's disabled by the pregnancy, disabled by childbirth, or has a medical condition related to pregnancy or childbirth. And remember that one. We're going to talk about that at the end of the program. Samantha's length of service has no bearing on whether she is eligible for pregnancy disability leave. There is no length of service or minimum hours worked requirement, so even recently hired employees are eligible for this leave. Not every pregnancy is in of itself considered a disability. Samantha is considered disabled by pregnancy or childbirth if, in the opinion of her healthcare provider, she would be unable to perform an essential function of her job without undue risk to herself, to her pregnancy's successful completion, or to other persons. Of course, It's okay for Samantha's employer to seek medical documentation demonstrating that she needs time off for a pregnancy disability. However, her employer should avoid prying into personal questions about the pregnancy, details of the pregnancy or disability, or seeking more information than is necessary to substantiate the need for the leave. Her employer should also be particularly sensitive to Samantha's medical privacy. The FEHA regulations provide examples of conditions which may be indicative of a pregnancy-related disability, which include prenatal care, postnatal care, the need for bed rest, gestational diabetes, pregnancy-induced hypertension, preeclampsia, postpartum depression, childbirth, loss or end of pregnancy, recovery from childbirth, and even severe morning sickness in some cases. Samantha's employer is required to notify her of her right to take pregnancy disability leave in 3 ways. First, by posting a notice in a conspicuous place. Second, by providing Samantha with a copy of the notice as soon as possible after becoming aware of her pregnancy. And third, by including a discussion of pregnancy disability leave in the employee handbook. Samantha's employer may electronically post the notices and may send them via email. For FEHA-covered employers, like the district, with a workforce comprised of 10% or more of persons whose primary language is not English, the notices must be translated into the languages spoken by the employees. Samantha's employer may also give verbal or written notice in the appropriate language to those employees of their right to pregnancy disability leave, reasonable accommodation, and transfer once the employer knows she is pregnant. For employers with fewer than 50 employees, they are required to post Notice A, which was provided in your written materials. It can also be found at www.dfeh.ca.gov/res/notice%20a.pdf. For employers with 50 employees or more, like the district, they are required to post Notice B, which was also provided in your written materials. It can also be found at the same website, except instead of %20B, it can be found at %20. Pardon me, instead of %20A, it can be found at %20B. Samantha's employer isn't the only one whose notice requirements come into play when it comes to pregnancy disability leave. Samantha has her own obligations as well. She has a duty to notify her employer of her intention to take pregnancy disability leave. If the need for taking leave is foreseeable, Samantha is required to give 30 days notice. However, if the need for leave arises suddenly and without enough time to give the 30 days notice, then she is only obligated to give notice as soon as is practicable. Samantha has notified you that she needs to take time off for bed rest, and she has provided you with all the necessary documentation from her doctor. Well, how do you calculate the 4 months she's entitled to? The 4-month period afforded under the FEHA is calculated in hours rather than days. 4 months is defined as 1/3 of a year, or 17 1/3 weeks. A full-time employee working 40 hours a week is entitled to 693 hours of pregnancy disability leave. Part-time employees working 20 hours per week are entitled to 346.6 hours of pregnancy disability leave. An employee who is disabled by her pregnancy may take the pregnancy disability all at once or intermittently in increments. Samantha's employer may account for increments of intermittent leave or reduced work schedules using an increment no greater than the shortest period of time the employer uses to account for use of other forms of leave, but not greater than 1 hour. Just because Samantha is out on leave doesn't mean she loses any seniority status while she's out. The leave does not constitute a break in service for purposes of longevity and/or seniority under any collective bargaining agreement or under any employee benefit plan. In addition, since there's no break in service, if Samantha was up for a promotion or a raise before she went out, the fact that she went out should have no impact, and her employer should move forward with the promotion or raise. Samantha's employer is required to maintain and pay for group health coverage, assuming she's eligible for coverage, at the same level and under the same conditions that coverage would have been provided if she had continued in employment continuously for the duration of the leave. If Samantha doesn't return to work after her pregnancy disability leave, her employer is permitted to recover the premiums paid while she was on pregnancy disability leave, unless the reason she's not returning is because she's taking additional leave pursuant to the CFRA, which we'll discuss in a moment, or as an accommodation for a continuing disability. While she's on pregnancy disability leave, Samantha will continue to participate in the employee benefit plan, including short-term and long-term disability or accident insurance, pension and retirement plans, stock options, and supplemental unemployment benefit plans to the same extent and under the same conditions as would apply to any other unpaid disability leave granted by the employer for any reason other than pregnancy disability. Will Samantha get paid while she's out on pregnancy disability leave? The FEHA only provides for the leave and for job protection during the leave. It doesn't provide for compensation. For most purposes, employees who are on pregnancy disability leave must be treated the same as employees on other types of disability leave in terms of pay, benefits, and other terms and conditions of employment. For example, if the employer provides paid leave for other types of temporary disabilities, the employer must also provide paid leave for pregnancy disability leave. However, there are 3 ways Samantha can receive compensation during her pregnancy disability leave. She can use her sick time, she can use her vacation time, and she can apply for state disability insurance. Samantha's employer is permitted to require her to use her accrued sick leave time during the otherwise unpaid portion of her pregnancy disability leave. She can also opt to use her sick pay during this time, regardless of whether her employer requires it. Samantha's employer is not permitted to require her to use vacation time during her pregnancy disability leave. Of course, Samantha can voluntarily elect to use it. Since Samantha is unable to perform her regular or customary job duties, she may be able to collect state disability insurance while she's on pregnancy disability leave. Let's assume Samantha is able to return to work following her pregnancy disability leave. She has the right to be reinstated to the same position she held before taking her leave unless the job no longer exists due to a legitimate business reason unrelated to her taking the pregnancy disability leave, such as a layoff pursuant to a plant closure or a reduction in force. If the employer is excused from reinstating Samantha to her same position or with the same duties, it must then reinstate her to a comparable position unless the employer would not have offered a comparable position to Samantha if she would have been continuously at work during the pregnancy disability leave, or there's simply no comparable position available. If Samantha's employer cannot return her to a comparable position, it must provide Samantha with notice of a comparable position for 60 days. It will not be enough to simply give the employee the option of searching for comparable jobs. The employer will now have the obligation to notify the employee of potential comparable positions. But let's assume Samantha doesn't return to work after she takes her pregnancy disability leave. Let's assume that upon the completion of her pregnancy disability leave, she gives birth. Let's welcome Samantha Jr. to the world and discuss Samantha's continued leave. Of course, Samantha will want to take time off to bond with her new baby and to recuperate from the delivery. In addition to her pregnancy disability leave, Samantha and her life partner may each be eligible to take a 12-work-week leave of absence for the birth of a child for purposes of bonding, placement of the child in the employee's family for adoption or foster care, for serious health condition of the employee's child or spouse, or for the employee's own serious health condition. For purposes of this training, let's refer to this type of leave as baby bonding leave. Wait, you may be wondering, can Samantha really take back-to-back leaves? If she's out 17 1/3 weeks on pregnancy disability leave, and out another 12 weeks on baby bonding leave, that's 29 1/3 weeks, or about 7 months. Can she really be out 7 months? Yes. The laws that pertain to pregnancy disability leave and to baby bonding leave run consecutively, not concurrently in California. That means that pregnancy disability leave is separate and distinct from Samantha's right to take leave under the CFRA. To be eligible for baby bonding leave, Samantha and her life partner will have to have worked for their respective employers at least 1,250 hours over the previous 12 months before the pregnancy, before the leave. If both Samantha and her life partner are eligible for CFRA, but they are employed by the same employer, which is pretty common here at the district, their employer may limit the leave for birth, adoption, or foster care placement to 12 work weeks in a 12-month period between the two partner parents. Samantha's employer must provide her with reasonable advance notice of how she should go about applying for baby bonding leave under the CFRA. That is the employer's notification responsibility. Samantha, however, is required to give at least verbal notice of her need for baby bonding leave, as well as the anticipated timing and duration of her leave. Her employer may may require 30 days advance notice unless it's not practicable to give that much notice. It is the employer's responsibility to designate Samantha's leave as CFRA qualifying. In some cases, an employer's failure to properly designate leave may entitle the employee to additional leave. Samantha's employer is required to respond to her leave requests as soon as is practicable, not to exceed 10 calendar days. 12 work weeks means the equivalent of 12 of Samantha's normally scheduled work weeks. Samantha and or her partner do not need to take baby bonding leave in one continuous period of time. Just as with pregnancy disability leave, baby bonding leave can be taken intermittently. However, in most cases, baby bonding leave must be concluded within 1 year of the birth of Samantha Jr. Baby bonding leave does not constitute a break in service for purposes of longevity and or seniority under any collective bargaining agreement or under any employee benefit plan. And that's the same with pregnancy disability leave as well. If Samantha's employer provides health benefits under any group health plan, her employer has an obligation to maintain and pay her health coverage at the same level and under the same conditions as coverage would have been provided had she been continuously employed during the entire leave period. As with pregnancy disability leave, Samantha's employer can recover what it paid in maintaining her group health care coverage if she doesn't return to work. As with pregnancy disability leave, Samantha's employer is not required to pay her during her baby bonding leave. However, Samantha can voluntarily elect to use her accrued vacation time, and in most cases, her employer may require her to use her accrued vacation time. Also, Samantha's sick time. Of course, Samantha can voluntarily opt to use her sick time as well. The usual period to collect state disability insurance for a normal pregnancy is up to 4 weeks before the expected delivery date and up to 6 weeks after the actual delivery. However, Samantha's physician may certify a longer period if her delivery is by cesarean section, if there are medical complications, or if she's unable to perform her regular and customary job duties. For California workers covered by state disability insurance, paid family leave insurance provides up to 6 weeks of benefits for individuals who take time off to bond with their new child. Baby bonding leave under the CFRA must include a guarantee of employment in the same or comparable position upon Samantha's return to work, unless she would not otherwise have been employed at the time reinstatement is requested, such as in a layoff situation. Under limited circumstances, where reinstatement to employment will cause substantial and grievous economic injury to the operations of Samantha's employer, it may refuse to reinstate her if she's a highly paid, salaried, key employee. In order to do so, her employer must notify the employee in writing of his or her status as a key employee, the reasons for denying job reinstatement, and provide Samantha a reasonable opportunity to return after notifying her that she won't be reinstated. What if by the time Samantha is supposed to return to work, she's still physically or mentally disabled and unable to return? Samantha may also be afforded leave as an accommodation, separate and apart from pregnancy disability leave or the baby bonding leave. In fact, it's a right to take pregnancy disability leave, the right to take pregnancy disability leave, the right to take baby bonding leave, and the right to take a leave of absence as an accommodation are each separate and distinct. If Samantha requests time off as an accommodation, her employer should engage with her in the interactive process to see if an accommodation can be made. Samantha has now returned to work. On her first day back, she informs you that she has been breastfeeding Samantha Jr. while on leave and that she intends to continue breastfeeding her at least until Samantha Jr. is 1 year old. Here's what you need to know. At the outset, as a matter of policy, the district applauds and supports its new mothers who choose to breastfeed. We want to work with new mothers to ensure they have every opportunity to continue breastfeeding after they return to work. According to a study by the Office on Women's Health, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and numerous other studies, the hormones and antibodies in breast milk provide babies from many illnesses. This protection is unique. Formula cannot match the chemical makeup of human breast milk. Breastfed babies enjoy lower risk of ear infections, gastrointestinal tract problems, respiratory infections, asthma, obesity, types 1 and 2 diabetes, childhood leukemia, and some skin rashes. Breastfeeding has also been shown to lower the risk of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, and to increase IQ. That's why many experts recommend that a baby be breastfed for at least the first year of life. Since the babies of our employees may likely be our future customers here at the district, we want them to be as healthy as possible. It's not easy to breastfeed, and it's even less easy to express milk at work. It's cumbersome, awkward, and laborious chore for most women. When Samantha asks for time to express milk, it's probably not because she's trying to get away with something or use it as an excuse to get out of work. Most women would probably rather be working than expressing milk. But they do it because they believe it will give their child the best possible chance at a healthy and bright future. You should understand that Samantha's body will produce milk as it is used. The more that is expressed, the more the body produces. If less is expressed, the body will begin to produce less. How often she expresses and the duration she expresses will impact her milk production. Samantha's employer definitely doesn't want to impede her production by unreasonably limiting the frequency or duration she is entitled to express milk. Typically, a new mother needs to express milk every 3 hours for about 15 minutes to a half an hour, depending on her skill, stress level, milk production, and other conditions. The California Labor Code provides that Samantha is entitled to a reasonable amount of break time to express milk as frequently as needed. Ideally, the break time could be concurrent with Samantha's usual break time, but it need not be a paid break time unless paid break time is already part of her workday. She must also be provided a functional place to express. A bathroom, even if private, is not a permissible location. If the space permitted is not dedicated to the nursing mother's use, it must be available when needed, shielded from view, and free from any intrusion from coworkers and the public. The FEHA expressly prohibits discrimination and harassment of new mothers who choose to express milk at work. In fact, breastfeeding or medical conditions related to breastfeeding is in its own protected category. Samantha's employer should also be mindful that it may be liable for discrimination against Samantha if it docks her pay for the time she uses to express milk and doesn't dock the pay of folks who take quick breaks to smoke, grab a coffee, or chat at the water cooler. Samantha's employer should be mindful that lactation is included as a potentially disabling related medical condition which may afford Samantha a job transfer or other reasonable accommodation. Remember, I said I was going to mention that again. If somewhere along the way Samantha starts to experience performance issues, her employer should know that she is not insulated from discipline. To avoid a claim by Samantha that the discipline is really just pretext and that she's being discriminated against, harassed, or retaliated because she's pregnant, disabled by pregnancy or leave, or being accommodated, documentation of the performance issue is key. Denying leave or accommodation should never be used as a disciplinary measure. Leave and accommodations are afforded regardless of disciplinary issues. To be safe, Samantha's employer should always handle and discuss the performance and discipline issues separate and apart from any discussions about leave or accommodations.
Well, on behalf of Organizational Excellence, we'd like to thank all of you for participating in today's webcast. We'd appreciate if you'll return to the Learning Zone to fill out a program evaluation, which you'll find under your My History tab in the Learning Zone. And while you're there, look for our future webcasts by searching for the keyword webcasts in the Learning Zone. Also, check out our just-in-time training topic pages at www.oep.org.